come fly the friendly skies.
Back in time, 100 million years ago, you'd find an unknown world, almost a different planet.
Ancient fish shared a vast expanse of water in the center of Australia with gigantic creatures, strange and frightening.
This is one of Australia's modern-day dinosaurs. And in this program, we're going to go back in time and search for some of his ancestors.
Even in the age of dinosaurs, Australia's fauna was different. It had already started on a path of evolution that would lead to the unusual wildlife we see today.
And sometimes things don't change much. The crocodile would have been right at home back then.
And sometimes the shape of modern species mimic the form of those extinct animals.
Both the similarities and the differences between Australia and the rest of the world are explained by a theory. All the world's land masses were probably once a single supercontinent called Gondwana, before they separated and drifted apart.
Among the results of Australia's bizarre evolution were giant versions of the marsupials we see today.
Dr. Ralph Molnar at the Queensland Museum explains why.
If you looked at the Earth 250 million years ago, you would see that Australia was literally at the end of the Earth. I mean, it was at the end of the world's longest peninsula. The makeup of the fauna on a peninsula is different from what it is on the mainland of the continent. So it might be that the peninsula effect was an explanation for the strange animals that lived in Australia. Now, this may explain not only the unusual land animals that one finds in Australia, but also the fact you tend to get living fossils in Australia, like the Queensland lungfish, which is virtually unchanged over the past 100 million years.
This is a little platypus, one of two of the only monotremes in the world, a very unique animal. A monotreme is an egg-laying mammal, and they are very, very special. And he's got that duck bill. It's a sensory organ to locate his food. You can see on all four of his feet with those flippers, he's got spurs. I think it's very important that we take into account that any disturbance in their environment could be detrimental to the species, and, gee, we'd hate to lose them. This rather unusual looking creature is actually a giant echidna. Has become extinct, and it was the largest monotreme the world has ever seen. Rather a large animal, and if you liken him to the modern day echidna, you can see down here, he's got a few spikes protruding through there. Of course, our modern day echidna is very, very spiky. He also possesses that long beak, which enables him to get down in amongst the foliage into the dirt, and uses a very long tongue to scoop up ants and termites. Like the platypus, the echidna possesses formidable defensive mechanisms to deter or injure potential predators. So special handling techniques are necessary to avoid being spiked or spurred. Now, monotremes are egg-laying mammals, which also suckle their young and are a part of Australia's exclusive wildlife. Wow, aren't these unbelievable? These are scaled-down versions of the dinosaurs we all recognise so well. This little bloke here, this is Tyrannosaurus Rex. Oh, Bonehead, if you can imagine they're scaled down. They grew a lot bigger than this. Excuse me, Bonehead. Another classic example there. Oh, here's Triceratops. Oh, Triceratops, very easily recognised, 3 horns, grew almost the size of an elephant. And here's a life-size replica. This is more like it. This is a scale 1 to 1. This is the size that they grew to. A truly awesome Tyrannosaurus Rex. Massive proportions. Imagine this big jigger, boom, 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 running through the scrub chasing you down. Huge animal. Massive.
Dinosaurs like these by Dynamation are what we're used to seeing in dinosaur books and movies.
But we're going to skip around in time and look at some of Australia's prehistoric creatures. A killer koala, or at least an honoured ancestor.
The marsupial lion was the largest carnivorous marsupial to have ever existed in Australia. She was such a powerful hunter, she was actually able to bring down prey the size of a kangaroo. She was also an excellent climber, much like her modern-day relative, the koala.
The koalas come to us in a direct line of evolution from those fierce ancestors. It's a line of descent unbroken for maybe millions of years.
Yet in just 2 centuries, we've created a threat to one of history's great survivors. Unless we start leaving their habitat alone, all that will be left of koalas are museum exhibits of yet another fascinating but extinct Australian animal.
Koalas are marsupial, and like the wombat, who digs underneath the ground to avoid predators, the koala is strictly arboreal, and that means they are tree climbers. They don't often come down onto the ground, and when they do, they will not traverse very far across land. They are very susceptible to diseases, and knocking down eucalypts and other trees has certainly diminished their populations. They are very fragile. Very beautiful, but very, very fragile.
The short-faced kangaroo was a monstrous animal that lived a long time ago. We think he may have become extinct because as food and water supplies dwindled, he was not able to survive.
In the line of evolution in the great kangaroo, the animals have actually gotten smaller over the past 10,000 to 100,000 years. And this sort of decrease in size seems to have happened in different ways in different sorts of animals. If we take a look at the wombat here, you've got a giant wombat sitting in its giant wombat burrow. However, this is not an ancestor of the modern wombat. Instead, in the wombat line, it's the large ones that became extinct, the small ones that survived. In the line of the great kangaroo, they actually became smaller.
The kangaroo is like many of our native fauna, smaller versions of the marsupial giants that died out thousands of lifetimes ago.
This is Missy the wombat. The wombats do live underground. They burrow under fences and often cause farmers a lot of problems. This is also one of the animals that may have been subject to dwarfism. They may have actually shrunk through the years because of habitat encroachment and killing off the larger animals.
They've got those very chisel-like teeth, and as you can see, makes it very easy to chew up some rather coarse vegetation.
This is Diprotodon, as she may have looked when she roamed Australia tens of thousands of years ago. Being the largest marsupial ever known, of course she carried her young in a pouch. Scientists believe the first birds were closely related to dinosaurs. And when we see models of the huge version of the prehistoric chicken or the giant emu, we can see the resemblance.
In many animals, the similarity to their ancient ancestors is striking. Some species seem to have changed only in size and in a few details over countless centuries.
Gee, have a look at the size of these giant eggs. They're not dinosaur eggs, these are actually emu eggs. One of the larger flightless birds throughout the world. Once, huge flightless birds used to wander across the whole of Australia. There's fossilised evidence of it, especially in the Riversley area.
Now, these modern-day birds are still roaming most of outback Australia. This is the third largest bird in the world. They've got rudimentary wings. They are the emu. That's the male sitting on the eggs. He mates with the female. She deposits the eggs, and then it's his job to hatch those little babies out, and he'll raise them up. That's his job. Very maternal. This is the giant horned tortoise from Australia, and extinct now, of course. And they were a herbivore, a plant-eating animal, grew very, very large. Now, you can see, okay, typical tortoise structure, but have a look at this armour plating that he's got on his head. Not only have they got the armour plating on the head, but they've got that typical armour plating of your modern-day tortoise. All that big shell, that carapace, going down into the tail. And if you have a look at the tail, have a look at the armour plating on that, protecting it from large carnivores, which were preying the area.
Extinct. And today's turtles are also facing extinction.
Well, this is the grisly end for this poor old turtle. He's just sitting out here cooking now. You can see how his eyes are sunken back inside his head. These turtles actually eat weed and the jellyfish. You can imagine what's getting caught up in this weed. What happens with the turtle, with the jellyfish? They can't determine whether it's a jellyfish or a plastic bag, and so they eat it. Once they've eaten it, it fills up their stomach, so they're constantly thinking that they're full. And all they've got is plastic inside their belly. They can't break it down, so their digestive tract is full. They don't eat. Once they refuse to eat, it's just a slow, grisly death for them. We're losing thousands of turtles globally. We're going to lose these dinosaurs. These things here go back to the age of reptiles. They go straight back into the dinosaur era.
And so do these. Australia's goanna can be a pretty ferocious lizard, but it's nothing compared with its ancestor. They look so much alike, except for size.
And here's the Megalania, the largest land predator of his time. A truly magnificent and yet terrifying beast. Have a look at the size of it, the proportions of it. Like a giant goanna, and possibly the only creature capable of pulling something down and killing, consuming a diprotodon, a massive marsupial. Megalania, giant goanna.
To see what Australia's marine dinosaurs were like, we're visiting the Museum of Tropical Queensland in Townsville. The creatures shown here were enormously successful in their day, and they dominated life in the water.
What we've got here are some remarkable dinosaurs reconstructed from fossil evidence. Absolutely amazing. These giant creatures are the dinosaurs that roamed the huge inland sea of Western Queensland. This one is a plesiosaur, a massive marine reptile. And you can tell they're a marine reptile, those large fins that they've got to propel themselves through the water, and those great, huge carnivorous teeth. Obviously a carnivore, massive animal. And this one is actually a Wollongosaurus. Looming in behind us is another plesiosaur, and that's actually the largest plesiosaur found in this day and age, or so far. Massive big animal, almost crocodilian-like in structure, but unlike a crocodile, it's a marine reptile. And here's its skull. Look at the size of the teeth on it, massive.
Jaw power like that has survived to the present day. The estuarine crocodile. Imagine how terrifying their extinct ancestors must have been.
This is the ichthyosaur, another massive marine reptile, like a fish lizard. And it's almost dolphin-like in structure. Those flippers, dorsal fin, the tail. Beautiful looking creature, totally unlike a dolphin. Have a look at the skull of this guy. Massive, great set of teeth, designed for eating smaller fish. What a beautiful specimen.
This is the most fish-like of the dinosaurs. It evolved a shape for traveling through the water that also evolved in mammals like dolphins and whales. It seems that some designs are so perfect that even 1 million years of evolution can't come up with an improvement. Even the beak of the dolphin reminds us of the vicious-looking snout of an ichthyosaur.
And among the fish, the same design again. The shark is virtually unchanged after millions of years. Their ancestors looked exactly the same as this.
One of Australia's largest known dinosaurs was Rhodosaurus, a giant plant eater that lived in Queensland about 190 million years ago during the Jurassic period. Rhodosaurus literally means giant lizard, and it was a sauropod, which meant a dinosaur that walked on all fours with a long neck and a very long tail. This animal would have stood 4 meters tall at the hip, been 17 meters from nose to tail, and would have weighed 20 tons, or about the same as 4 elephants.
Have a look at these little blighters. They're coelurosaurs, and they're one of the smallest dinosaurs. Very, very tiny, but quick, real quick. When you have a look at their leg structure, by crikey, they can run. And they've got to be able to run fast because those large, flesh-eating dinosaurs, chomp, 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 they're chasing them around, leaving footprints, and they'll eat them.
By world standards, we've barely scratched the surface of Australia's fossilized past. But even so, some great discoveries have been made and recovered for study and display.
This gully cutting through the limestone has revealed a great fossil. It's an ichthyosaur once again. These ribs that we've got exposed are evidence of dinosaurs. In the inland sea in Western Queensland, here's evidence of dinosaurs in inland Australia. And it's like trapped in time.
Revealing those secrets of time is a difficult task. As we discovered, it's a long way to the old inland sea.
We're flying to the outback town of Winton and the Diamantina River to search for fossils. The Diamantina dries up to almost nothing and then overflows to make hundreds of channels through what was the prehistoric seabed. Most dinosaur discoveries happen by accident, but there are so few people down there that accidental discoveries are a long way apart.
Scientists are certain the arid landscape hides just as many fossils as anywhere else in the world. Apart from accidentally digging a hole in exactly the right place, you can only dream of deliberately picking the very spot to unearth a treasure from the past.
Hi there. Hello. Paul Nelson, how do you do? Terri. G'day, Paul, how are you? Steve, good to see you, mate.
Even if this lonely road wasn't taking us into one of the most important dinosaur areas on Earth, it would still be a part of Australia well worth exploring.
When you get into this remote area, you can see why there are so few people to stumble over dinosaur remains.
An old sandstone homestead shows us why dinosaur bones don't sit around for long.
Well, it's National Trust listed, yeah. It's a beautiful old building. It's got a lot of history about it. It was a very important mailing centre for the other big cattle properties further down the river. The old post office is actually around the front of the building here.
Yep. So this was Cobb and Co. Type stuff?
It was. Of course, this was the desk here in front of you. It had all the drawers.
When it was last used in the 1950s, Old Cork Homestead was left in excellent condition. It was fully furnished. People could have walked in and set up house.
Instead, they walked in and vandalised it. As soon as it was open to the harsh climate of outback Australia, the fabric of this 1870s homestead began crumbling away. What chance would dinosaur bones have on the surface if they weren't protected from both the weather and thoughtless people?
Paul is going to drop us off in an area where it doesn't really matter whether we find dinosaur remains or not. It has other attractions and parts that are worth a closer look.
Grab the climbing gear, Terri. Okay, Paul, we'll see you in a few hours, mate. Around us, we see the flat-top mesas and the escarpment that once formed the shoreline of the inland sea. This is an area where we know that dinosaurs once roamed the shore and where gigantic sea creatures swam in the waters.
This land inherited by the eagles has such grandeur that it seems appropriate as the final resting place of the dinosaurs. Millions of years ago, this entire area was covered by a huge inland sea. Apparently, the rock formations and pinnacles were caused by the erosion of the wave action. And I think this would be the perfect place to start our search for evidence of dinosaurs.
The edge of this escarpment is a sheer drop. There's very little interest up here on top, and we need to get down into the valleys.
So, Terry, there's a huge cave under there. You can see the water comes down, that big chunk of water, that billabong. So, here.
We've done this before, but this rock crumbles easily. It's far from safe, though it sure beats hours of walking to find an easy way down.
Okay, Terry.
On rope!
Let her rip.
Nice and steady. Nice and steady. That's it, good stuff. You're gonna drop another 10 feet and then you're over good. Yeah. Just call it when you're not, right?
Nice and smooth. Don't wiggle your legs.
Let go. Steady, steady. Impact.
All right.
How'd you go with that?
Hot.
Great.
This rope is really hot. At the bottom, the first thing we discover are some well-hidden caves filled with ancient Aboriginal art.
You can see how vivid the colours are here. That yellow gecko lizard-looking thingy, and then you've got the rainbow painting, your whites, your reds, and your yellow.
Wow, these colors are so bright, yet they've been here for so long. How do they make them? How do they make the paint?
So what they do is they grind it up, mix a bit of water with it and make a paste. And that's your ochre. So give us this white one for a minute. All right, so here's your white ochre. And in actual fact, with the ochres, the really important ones, the ones hard to get, they'd actually trade them with neighbouring tribes. It was very important, these ochres, to do their paintings. Apparently, these crosses are a very common trait for the Aboriginal cave paintings throughout this whole area.
But only this area, isn't that right?
That's right, that's right. It's only found here, not anywhere else in Australia.
There's another one.
They are remarkable. I wish I knew how old they were. Then we'd be able to work out what interaction the Aborigines had with all those ancient order of mammals, the giant echidnas, the huge big macropods. Gee whiz.
And where people live, you'll find water. Even in this dry country, it has to be here.
Gee, have a look at this billabong here. Gee, you can see why all the wallaby and the kangaroo tracks come down out of all this escarpment country, up the plains, and they come right down into here. This would have to be spring-fed. This is the only water around this area, and what a beautiful waterhole. Fig trees there, bit of native tucker.
You can see why Indigenous people would live here too.
Yeah, my word, it's like a paradise. Here's the source of that water. What you've got here, as you can see how crumbly this stuff is, you've got layers of sandstone and conglomerate, and this is a spring right back under this huge big escarpment. There's a body of water and it's slowly seeping through, dripping off the roof, and then it dribbles all the way back down into the billabong. And this has probably been happening for thousands, maybe millions of years.
The water we found here doesn't seem like it's going to dry up in a hurry. But in other parts of this region, the water comes and goes with the seasons. And sometimes the dry can last a very long time.
Again below us, another waterhole, but this one's shrinking. Here we'll see what's been happening around waterholes for millions of years. The remains of animals caught in the mud as the water dries up and disappears.
That's how we often find well-preserved dinosaur bones. This time, there's no need for the ropes. There's almost a staircase down the different stratas of rock.
Here's some evidence of what happens when the waterholes dry up. This is a juvenile freshwater tortoise, and the youngest, the smallest, and the weakest, they're the first to die. It's only a couple of days away, and all this water's going to dry up
and everything in it is gonna die.
While the water's still here, there's probably still life. There won't be much down there, but Steve gropes through the mud to see what he can find. These delightful water lilies will soon be gone as well. But unlike the animal life, they will survive.
Their seeds remain buried in the dried mud, and the next time it rains, they'll sprout again and provide food for the native bees. Here he is. Here he is. You wait there, fella.
A freshwater turtle. The blueprint for his design comes from ancient reptiles in the age of dinosaurs.
Here he is. Wait there. Wait. You wait there, fella.
Come on, guys, the water's all drying up.
Look at these little beauties, babe.
I can give you a hand if you want to bring him right up over to here, then I'll... You hang on to him. I got him.
Got him?
Yeah.
Have a look at his shell coming off here.
How come that's coming off?
Well, they normally shed their shell the same as a snake sheds their skin as they grow. But because the water's so shallow and so hot, it's starting to cook him. There's only another couple of days and these guys will be dead. The same as a snake or a lizard does.
We didn't have the heart to leave them to a drawn-out and certain death. So we're going to move them back to the permanent water we saw a little earlier.
Abseiling down the escarpment was quite easy, but an absolute nightmare trying to get out again. The crumbly rock that was a nuisance during the abseil is an absolute drama to try and climb back out, and very dangerous.
It's not far to the top, but we can't quite make it. It's too steep, and that crumbly rock turns every foothold into a treacherous trap. Steve takes the long way around to where a crevice gives him the support he needs to get back to the top.
Wait on. Okay. You right, babe? Okay. Ready? And up. Both arms. Yep. Gets it up. Use your feet. Use your feet. You got me? Yep. Up. Use your legs, babe. Use your legs.
I'm trying. I can't.
Use your legs.
I can't.
That's it.
We head further along what used to be the inland sea. We're heading to the Diamantina.
Wow, here's a flock of red-tailed black cockatoos. Aboriginal legend has it that fire first came from the red tail of these black cockies.
It seems more and more likely that birds are among the closest living relatives of dinosaurs, possibly direct descendants.
In fact, some paleontologists are starting to think about whether some dinosaurs actually had feathers that evolved for warmth rather than flight.
That's not so far-fetched. The same substance that makes up the scales of reptiles is found in the feathers of birds.
It's fascinating to think that birds are the dinosaurs that did not die. When you arrive at the Diamantina gate, the sign tells you in no uncertain terms that you must be well prepared to travel through. In this country, if you make a mistake, you're dead.
These mesas stand silent watch over an ever-changing land. It's an unforgiving part of the world, but it's worth the effort to see the strange formations left behind by the receding inland sea of an age long gone. decided to investigate the more inaccessible mesas. Most fossils are found in riverbeds or along rock outcroppings, anywhere rock has been washed away or exposed. Exploring these mountains is going to be difficult, but Steve loves a challenge.
Well, this looks like about the spot. So as I go up, just move out of the way, because there could be a few rocks coming down.
Okay. Careful. This part really makes me angry. Steve never listens to me. We've come up nearly 100 meters of grueling climb. He's got about 30 meters to go, and it's getting too risky. But the guy's focused. He won't listen to me, and he's determined to finish the climb. Then I realize there comes a point where you're committed. Steve's either going to have to finish the climb, or it's a one-way trip down.
At this point, reality struck home. I'd almost bitten off more than I could chew. Far too hairy a climb.
I'm just gonna go around the side here and meet you down here. While I took the safer path around the base of the hill, Steve checked out the top for any evidence of dinosaurs.
The view is certainly worth the climb. I'm looking down at what once was the inland sea from the best vantage point for hundreds of kilometers.
It's only from above that you can truly appreciate what happened here millions of years ago. You can see where the sea contracted into a series of lakes and rivers, and then where it shrank even further to smaller streams and waterholes. This stretch of permanent water is a haven for all kinds of life, even a few seabirds, to remind us that this was once itself a sea.
In the dry season, this is one of the biggest remaining stretches of the Diamantina River. It's evaporated down to a landlocked billabong only a few kilometers long.
The rocks that are scattered right through the region are dangerously close to the bottom of the boat. So the only way ashore is to shut down and walk to a hidden gallery of Aboriginal rock carvings. Wow, this is great.
The thing that I find so interesting about this Aboriginal rock carvings is that it's easy to see what it is. This is an emu's footprint carved into the rock. See that big free toes there? We go back a bit. Here's some kangaroo footprints. They start down here. Kangaroo, two-legged animal. Hop, 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 all the way up the rock. Up here's another beauty. This one's really, really obvious. If you have a look at this one here, I'm not sure. It's only a little one. It's free-toed. Perhaps it's a small bird. Hey, maybe it's even a dinosaur footprint. This is perfect. Out here in this pristine environment, we've got the classic scenario that we've been searching for. What we've got in here, we've got mummified macropods. Crikey, who knows how long they've been in here? They've been cooked by who knows how many summers. They are stiff as a board, and these are going to be preserved for a long, long time. And this is just how fossils were formed. The cave fills up or collapses, and then these are fossilized. They're trapped in time. Absolute classic.
It's exciting to think that someday someone may come along and rediscover these animals. They might even get to be the dinosaurs of the future. It was here that Steve was up to his climbing tricks again.
Hey, Terry, there's some great Aboriginal paintings in here.
How on earth did you get in there?
It's very difficult. I only just fit.
Is there a back thingo to it?
No, this is it. Straightforward in here. Have a look right there.
Oh, brother.
See the yellow and the big red one there?
Yeah, how'd anybody get in here?
I don't know. They must have done this, though. They must have crawled up through the front.
Water is the life link for both dinosaurs and modern-age man. There's only fossilised evidence of dinosaurs, but graphic evidence of man. What we've got here is a massive cave etched into the escarpment. Huge body of water down there, which has never dried up in the history of mankind. Very colourful rock art. It's the most spectacular rock art I've seen. All those whites, the red, the yellows, the water holes. Have a look at these ones. Here's one of the crosses again. The red, like a serpent painting. More art here. Almost a snake-like structure through there. The red. This is a classic. I'm not sure what it depicts, but you can see those lines coming out like a heap of legs. Little white wiggly thing at the end. A huge gallery of rock art. Must have taken them a long time to do it. This stark landscape was the bottom of what was once a huge inland sea.
Which is probably why finding dinosaur evidence is so difficult here in Australia. Because of the large amount of water, dinosaurs often sunk to the bottom of the sea and were buried under millions of years of mud and silt.
If only we could unlock the secrets that are contained underneath this earth.
We've arrived at Lark Quarry, one of the world's most important dinosaur sites, now protected from the elements by a steel building.
It's the world's only known dinosaur stampede, a network of ancient dinosaur footprints, from little ones the size of chooks right up to some of the biggest carnivores that ever lived on the continent. This is one of Australia's large meat-eating dinosaurs, going back about 100 million years.
This area was first discovered in the 1960s by 3 opal miners. At that time period, mining was done by hand, not machine, so the area was well preserved. About 10 years later, the Queensland Museum went ahead and preserved the area for the public, and now we can all enjoy the highest concentration of dinosaur fossilized footprints in the world.
What we have here is right out there was a huge big lake and about 300 little dinosaurs ranging from about a chook up to an ostrich size. They were grazing out on that lake. A large carnosaur, a large meat-eating dinosaur, came in and tried to trap them to eat them. And they fled. They stampeded up towards the hill there on a muddy bank. And as they got scared and they fled, whammo, boosh, 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 grabbing them and eating them.
Conditions had to be absolutely perfect in order to preserve these footprints. After they were made, the area went through a long dry period, and the mud turned into like concrete. Then the floods came in, the silt covered the area, and then rock began to form. We've got layers of sandstone above the footprints, and this has been preserved this way for about 100 million years.
And now that we've exposed it, it is open to the elements. And perhaps in several hundred years, it could deteriorate if it's left as it is. What we've got here is the perfect depiction of a dinosaur stampede which concretes the evidence of dinosaurs in this country. We have to preserve it.
Thousands of kilometers from the Sunshine Coast and our home at the Queensland Reptile Park, our search still continues. With the movie magic of Jurassic Park, imagination allows dinosaurs to come to life. This sparks interest in all of us to learn more about our dinosaur history.
The harshness of this land doesn't support much in the way of traditional wildlife that we're used to, but this little guy lives out here just fine. This is actually a native cockroach. He's native to Australia, unlike a lot of our cockroaches which have come from other countries, and he's having a little snack on this wood here. Cockroaches are fascinating because they were here long before man, and they'll probably be here long after we're gone.
Cockroaches are great, but to tell you the truth, I've got dinosaur fever, and I'm hoping for something a little bit more spectacular. So it's back to the top of the messes for another look.
As it turned out, that bad luck on the slippery slope was a bit of good luck at the bottom. We would later discover that we had literally stumbled into a fossil field.
People have walked past hundreds of rocks and have never recognized them as fossils or dinosaur evidence.
This is exactly what we've been looking for. This is the evidence of the dinosaurs that we've been chasing. Perfect, perfect. You can see these footprints. Look at the size of that toe there. And look at these ones.
Yeah, do you want to just hand me that one right there? If you'll notice with these footprints from the side, you can see they're raised. So what had actually happened is when the animal stepped down and left a footprint in the mud, the silt filled in over the top, hardened into rock, and finally broke away. And now we have the opposite of a footprint, a raised imprint in the rock. So while the footprint is like the negative, this is like a mold, or the other side. As it's a raised footprint, this one is also raised, and you can even see some toes here. There were other footprints formed which is broken off. So again, this is the opposite of what you get from the indentation. It's lifted off and has been found here.
You can see prints there, there. Here's a toe mark there. You can virtually see the pad, like the fingerprint. You can imagine the thumbprint is almost obvious in that toe there. And there's another toe there, probably came running through here.
We were thrilled to have finally been rewarded for all our searching. The fossils and those remarkable footprints in petrified sand have given scientists a few meager clues as to how Australia's unusual wildlife evolved and what it was like here 100 million years ago.
And so very little is known for sure. Even if they find 100 Lark Quarries and the bones of 1,000 extinct giants, all we can ever do is make educated guesses at what really went on when dinosaurs roamed down under.
Animals have dominated this planet for hundreds of millions of years.
And yet man has only been here for about 1 million years and is already the dominant species.
It's up to us to protect and preserve the wildlife that we still have,
so that future generations are not left with only footprints.
When his illicit love winds up dead, even his defense attorney has doubts about his case. Public opinion cries out for a conviction in this highly charged, best-selling suspense thriller. Presumed Innocent is tonight's premiere movie. Next on to 60 Minutes with facts you need to know.